My name is Stella Junker, and I am 31 years old. The smell of roasted turkey drifted through my mother's dining room, thick and almost syrupy, mixing with cinnamon candles she'd placed on every flat surface like festive warning signs. Christmas at the Harrison household had always meant excess too much food, too many decorations, and far too much silent judgment wrapped in glittering bows. Even now, walking into this house felt like stepping into an arena where the fight had already been fixed. My seat waited for me at the far end of the table, my usual spot since age 12, the one that told me exactly how small they expected me to be. The light from the chandelier didn't reach all the way down to my end, leaving me in a soft shadow that felt a little too symbolic for comfort. Amanda, my sister, sat at the center beside my mother, perfectly positioned, like royalty. Beside her was her husband Kenneth, slicing his prime rib with a precision that felt almost mocking. They looked like a pair who had built their marriage around synchronized smugness, the kind that came from a lifetime of being told they were the best in every room. So Stella Kenneth said, wiping his knife theatrically, "Still doing, what is it, the YouTube thing." Amanda let out her practiced laugh, sharp, rehearsed, weaponized. She had perfected it during law school, a sound engineered to bruise. "It's not YouTube, Kenneth. It's some streaming platform nobody's heard of." She tilted her head toward me, her smile sweet with poison. "What's it called again?" "Stella Streamville Stream. Something." "Various platforms," I said softly. "Various platforms," Kenneth repeated, pretending to consider it. "That's vague." Dad placed his fork down with a loud, deliberate clank, the universal Harrison signal for prepare to be lectured. "Various platforms," he repeated with disdain. "That's what we paid $60,000 a year in tuition for. So you could upload videos to various platforms. Mom's diamond bracelet, the one Dad bought her for their 30th anniversary, sparkled viciously as she reached for her wine glass. "We just worry, sweetheart," she said. "Long-suffering and theatrical. You're 31. When are you going to get a real job?" "I have a job," I said. "That's not a job," Dad replied. "It's a hobby, something teenagers do until they grow up." There it was, strike one. Amanda snorted. "What does the job pay? Free Wi-Fi?" Kenneth's chuckle followed right on cue. "Be nice," Mom said, though the lack of conviction in her voice made the words feel like background decoration. "I'm sure Stella's doing fine." She turned to me with a brittle smile. "How much do you make a year, dear? Just ballpark it." I drank some water instead of answering. "See," Dad gestured broadly. "She can't even say. Probably makes $30,000 a year, maybe less." Amanda stretched her back, confidence oozing out of her like it was her birthright. "Meanwhile, I just made junior partner. Kenneth's managing a whole engineering team. And you're filming yourself doing whatever exactly." I held her gaze. "I produce content." "Produce." Dad barked out a laugh. "Producers work for networks, studios, real organizations with real budgets. What you do is film things on your phone." "I don't film on my phone." "Same thing," Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. "Point is, you're living an extended adolescence." Her words landed the way a cold hand does on the back of your neck, familiar and unwelcome. The hurt was always there, hovering beneath my ribs, but I'd learned to wear it like invisible armor. Years of quiet judgment from them had taught me how to create distance even while sitting at the same table. Dad cleared his throat, leaning forward. "Anyway, I talked to Richard Polson at the club, VP of Programming at Channel 7. I told him you had a communications degree and some production experience. He said they might have an opening for associate producer. Entry level, but at least it's a real job." "I appreciate it, but..." He cut me off. "But nothing. You need stability, a 401k, health insurance, a retirement plan, a career." "I have benefits," I said. Amanda raised her eyebrow as if she'd spotted something pathetic on the floor. "What, free refills at McDonald's?" Kenneth stifled a laugh. Mom gave me a pitying smile. "Sweetheart, we're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to help you succeed." "By your definition of success," I said quietly. Their forks froze. Dad frowned. "Are you saying success isn't a stable job with good income?" "Success means different things to different people." "Don't give me that nonsense," Dad snapped. "Success is measurable." Amanda leaned forward, savoring the moment. "Honestly, Stella, who even watches your videos?" "Teenagers, unemployed people. Do you even know?" Dad laughed. Various demographics he mimicked. The servers arrived with dessert, a chocolate dish that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I pushed it around my plate, appetite long gone. The room buzzed with their achievements, their money, their vacations. Every sentence felt like another reminder that I wasn't and had never been good enough for them. "You need to aim higher," Amanda said. "Maybe see how successful people live. You might get inspired." "I'm content with my work," I said. "Content," Mom repeated. Exactly the problem. Content with mediocrity. Dad nodded. "Not the Harrison way." They carried on Amanda's case wins, Kenneth's promotions, Mom's charity events, Dad's business deals, while I sat quietly at the far end of the table, the forgotten daughter who didn't shine enough. Eventually, Mom brightened. "Let's move to the living room. The Emmys are on tonight." Dad clapped me on the back, his gesture heavy with condescension. "Come on, Stella. Come watch what real producers look like." I stood from my dim seat at the edge of the table, calm, composed. But beneath my stillness was a quiet storm, the kind that builds slowly and then changes everything in its path. Tonight, without meaning to, they were about to learn what real producers look like. The living room looked exactly as it always did on Christmas night. Immaculate leather couches, polished marble floors, and a television so large it made the whole space feel like a showroom. Mom liked to say it was tastefully decorated, but the room felt more like a cathedral dedicated to their own achievements. As we entered, Dad grabbed the remote with the pomp and ceremony of a king taking his throne. "Now this, Stella, is real television," he said, settling into his reclining leather chair. "Real producers, real prestige." I forced a breath through my nose. He had no idea how ironic those words were. Amanda curled up beside Kenneth on the couch, already swirling her third glass of wine. "Stella, you should pay attention. Maybe seeing actual professionals will give you some ideas." Kenneth snorted softly, tapping on his smartwatch. "Yeah, maybe you'll get inspired to pursue something with, an actual career ladder." I didn't answer. Silence had become my shield around them. The only thing that kept me from slipping into old patterns of pleading or explaining. At some point in my 20s, I'd learned that justification was a trap. The less I said, the less ammunition they had. The Emmys broadcast flickered onto the screen. A glamorous actress was mid-speech, thanking a sea of industry giants. Dad gestured at the TV. "Now this is what we raised you for. Excellence." He shot me a pointed look. "Not whatever it is you do." Mom nodded as she adjusted the throw blanket across her lap. "You used to talk about winning an Emmy when you were little, remember? It was such a sweet little dream before reality set in." Before she gave up, Amanda added, I stared at the glowing screen, trying not to laugh. Not bitterly, just at the absurdity of it. The universe had a sense of humor tonight. Stella, Mom said, lowering her voice as if delivering a secret she'd practiced. "Richard Paulson's associate producer offer is still open. Think about it. Imagine being part of something meaningful, something with prestige." Prestige, the family religion's second commandment. "I'm fine," I said. Dad scoffed. "Fine. You're 31 years old and fine with your life. Fine with drifting. Fine with no real direction." "You don't know anything about my direction," I said calmly. Amanda raised a brow. "Then enlighten us. What's the end game?" "Hoping a video goes viral, living off likes and little donation thingies." "I'm building something," I said quietly. Kenneth smirked. "Building what? A fan club of bored teenagers." My jaw tightened. "If you're building something," Dad said, "then tell us what it is. Tell us your 5-year plan, Stella." I looked at him, at all of them. Their faces were glowing with the soft golden light of the television, so proud, so certain, so comfortable in the superiority they believed was their birthright. "You don't want to hear it," I murmured. Amanda chuckled. "Oh, please. We're dying to hear what grand empire you think you're building from your tiny apartment." My tiny apartment. They didn't know I'd been holding back that revelation, too. The broadcast cut to commercial, and Dad used the break to lecture about production teams, budget allocations, award, politics. All things I actually understood far more intimately than they did. But to them, I was the underachiever, the disappointment, the fragile child they'd mentally frozen in time. Mom patted my knee. "Sweetheart, we love you. We just want you to live up to your potential." My chest tightened. The words "we love you" always sounded conditional in this house, like a membership card I had to constantly re-earn. Kenneth took a sip of wine. "Anyway, who knows? Maybe someday Stella will help film something that makes it to one of these awards." Amanda snorted. "Or maybe she'll film someone's birthday party. That counts, right?" "Enough," I said quietly. They didn't hear me, or maybe they pretended not to. The commercial break ended. "Here we go," Dad said, leaning forward in his recliner. "Outstanding producer for a drama series. Now we're talking." My pulse steadied, not quickening, steadying. like the final click into place before everything shifts. A well-known actress stepped onto the stage smiling graciously. "Oh, this is a big one," Mom murmured. Amanda threw her head back dramatically. Imagine being that level of accomplished, being nominated, being respected. Kenneth nodded with solemn approval. "This is what real work looks like." Dad shot me a sideways glance. "Stella, pay attention. This is what you should be aiming for." The actress unfolded the card slowly. "The nominees are..." A montage played dramatic, moody clips from major network dramas, sweeping shots of actors in high-budget scenes. Dad watched with pride as if he personally funded half the projects. And Amanda said smugly, "This is the part where Stella realizes how far she is from this level." Mom laughed softly. "Well, we all start somewhere." My heart beat slow, even, quiet. I folded my hands in my lap. The actress took a breath. "And the Emmy goes to..." She paused. Her expression changed just slightly, surprise, confusion, something shifting behind her eyes. "This is unexpected." Amanda leaned forward. Kenneth raised his eyebrows. Dad frowned. "The Emmy goes to Stella Junker for Fractured Minds, a documentary series." For a moment, everything froze. The room, the air, my family. Amanda blinked eyes wide. "What?" On screen, the camera panned the audience, searching for me, confused that I wasn't there. Dad's face drained of color. Mom's wine glass trembled in her hand. Kenneth sat perfectly still, like someone had unplugged him. The actress continued, clearly thrown off script. "Stella Junker for Fractured Minds. I'm being told this project is a streaming documentary series." A murmur rippled through the televised audience, and a silent earthquake shattered the one in my parents' living room. The documentary montage began, and everything they believed about me, everything they mocked, everything they dismissed, was about to collapse. The living room went so silent I could hear the faint hum of the television, a sound I'd never noticed before. It buzzed softly, almost nervously, like even the electronics sensed something seismic happening. On screen, the montage began. Soft piano music played over a sweeping aerial shot of a coastline at dawn, pale light, illuminating the fog, rolling over the water. Then a transition into an intimate interview, a woman with trembling hands, speaking about her struggle with bipolar disorder, filmed in soft, careful lighting that showed every nuance of her expression. Amanda's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering red across Mom's pristine white carpet. No one moved to clean it. "That's..." Mom whispered, voice cracking. "Your work." Her voice was so small it didn't sound like her. The montage continued. Footage from crowded clinics in India I'd filmed myself. A scene from episode 2, a teenager describing what depression felt like from the inside. A moment where one of our participants had her first breakthrough after weeks of therapy. The narrator spoke over it all. Fractured Minds. The groundbreaking documentary series by producer-director Stella Junker premiered on Streamverse to critical acclaim and unprecedented viewership. Amanda stared, unblinking. Streamverse. Kenneth fumbled for his phone, hands shaking. That's not a small platform." "No," I said quietly. "It isn't." The footage continued, behind-the-scenes clips of my crew adjusting cameras, lighting rigs, sound equipment. Shots of me interviewing participants, taking notes, reviewing footage. A glimpse of the editing bay with 6 monitors glowing in the dark. The narrator went on. The 8-part series garnered more than 200 million views in its first month, making it the most-watched documentary series in streaming history. Dad's face went white, then red, then something in between, a color I'd never seen on him before. Mom pressed her shaking fingers to her lips. 200 million. Amanda, hands trembling, snatched up her phone and typed frantically. No. This must be wrong." She stopped typing. Her face drained of color as the search results loaded. Oh my God, it's everywhere. New York Times, Variety, The Guardian, Stella what? But her words cut off because the montage shifted again. Clips of me speaking on panels, standing beside researchers, discussing mental health policy with professionals. Kenneth stared like he was watching a ghost. This can't be real. This says you won a Peabody Award last year." I nodded. "Yes. And another documentary before this, with critical acclaim. Universities using your work as course material." "Yes, Kenneth." He kept scrolling. "This says you employ this must be a typo, 40 full-time staff." 42, I corrected softly. 43, if you count my business manager." Dad's mouth opened, closed, opened again. The narrator continued. Junker's innovative approach, combining traditional documentary filmmaking with interactive viewer engagement, has been hailed as revolutionary by critics and mental health experts alike. And then, there I was, on their massive television filling the room. My pre-recorded acceptance speech, filmed in my production studio, the 4,000 square foot tiny apartment they loved mocking. I stood confidently on screen. Thank you to the Academy. This award belongs to the 12 brave individuals who shared their stories and to my incredible crew of 40 talented professionals. Mental health matters, and I'm honored that our work is part of the conversation. Amanda's breath hitched. Mom choked on a sob. Dad's knuckles turned white around the arm of his chair. The broadcast cut back to the stage. Congratulations to Stella Junker, the presenter said, though she still looked dazed. An extraordinary achievement. Kenneth's phone slipped from his hand and hit the couch cushion. Amanda whispered, almost inaudible, You're famous. No, I said. I'm accomplished. There's a difference. Mom suddenly stood stumbling slightly. Stella, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? Why wouldn't you? Because I said you never asked about the work, only about the paycheck. Dad's voice cracked. The budget, it says $18 million? 19, I corrected gently. We went slightly over in post-production. Amanda was staring at her phone like it was showing her a nightmare she couldn't wake from. This article says, your next project has a $27 million budget. 29, I corrected. We added locations in Southeast Asia. Mom pressed both hands to her temples. I don't understand. You drive a Honda. Your clothes, your apartment, you said. I never said I replied. You assumed. And then something inside Dad snapped. Not anger. Something far more painful. Stella, he said, voice trembling. Why? Why didn't you tell us? I looked straight at him. Because you spent years telling me my work didn't matter. I wanted to see if you cared about me. Or about status. Silence swallowed the room whole. I could see at that moment their worldview cracked like thin ice. Without warning, Amanda began to cry, not softly, but in raw, broken gasps. I called you a failure. I said you were living like a dropout. You said those things, I replied gently, but I never agreed with them. Kenneth rubbed his hands over his face. My God, we mocked you. We mocked you to your face while you were... I let him finish his own sentence. Award-winning, he whispered. Dad's voice was barely audible. We were so cruel. Mom burst into tears. Oh God, what have we done? The chandelier lights glimmered above us, casting fractured reflections across the marble floor. Reflections of a family whose certainty had just been shattered in one beautifully timed blow. And for the first time all night, I didn't feel like the forgotten one at the far end of the table. I felt seen, not by them, but by myself. And that was enough. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound in the living room was the faint hiss of the heater and Amanda's uneven breathing. The glittering perfection of the Harrison household, the marble floors, the towering Christmas tree, the chandelier, dripping crystal, all of it suddenly looked fragile, like decoration glued over rotting wood. Dad ran both hands over his face. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse, stripped of all the certainty he'd worn like armor for years. We were trying to help you, Stella. I looked at him steadily. No. You were trying to mold me into what you wanted, and when I didn't fit the mold, you assumed I failed. Mom stepped toward me, eyes red, mascara smudged. She reached out hesitantly, fingers trembling as if afraid I'd vanish if she touched me. Sweetheart, please. We didn't know. If we had known. That's the point, I said softly. You didn't want to know. Amanda wiped her face aggressively like she was ashamed of her own tears. You could have told us. You could have said something. Would you have believed me? I asked. She opened her mouth and nothing came out. Her silence was the answer. Kenneth cleared his throat. He looked smaller now, as if his confidence had slipped right off his body. Stella, your work is extraordinary. I've been reading more. He held up his phone like a white flag. It says your documentaries are used in medical schools, universities worldwide. Yes, you're legitimately changing lives. I nodded once. Amanda closed her eyes as if each new revelation was a blow to the chest. I was so cruel to you. The truth is, I said you didn't think I was worth respect unless I had something shiny to show for it. Amanda flinched, hard. Dad let out a long, shuddering breath. We pushed you because we thought you were throwing your potential away. No, I replied. You pushed me because I chose a path that scared you, a path you didn't understand. Mom clasped her hands together. Stella, tell us what we can do. Tell us how to fix this. You can't fix the past, I said, but you can start by acknowledging it. Dad sank into the leather recliner like his spine had dissolved. I called your work meaningless. I said your life wasn't real. And all this time, his eyes glistened with humiliating realization. You were succeeding in ways I can't even comprehend. You were succeeding in ways that matter, Kenneth added quietly. Mom stepped closer, trying again. Stella, we love you. You must know that. I held her gaze. I know you love the idea of me, but the real me, the one who didn't follow your script. I shook my head. You didn't even try. Amanda's voice wavered. Then help us try now, please. There it was, desperation, real raw, panicked. It softened something in me, but not enough to erase years of being dismissed at the dinner table. I took a breath. If you want to understand me, then listen carefully. Everyone straightened. I stayed quiet because I wanted to know if you respected me as a person or only as a success story. Mom whispered, and now you know. Yes, I replied, I do. The words hung in the air like a final verdict. Dad swallowed hard. We failed you. I don't need you to punish yourselves, I said gently. I just need you to see the truth. Amanda wiped her nose with the back of her hand. I'm sorry. Genuinely sorry. I believe you, I said. She froze, surprised. But I continued, I believe you're sorry for misjudging my success, not for misjudging me. Her face crumpled. Kenneth leaned forward. If there's anything we can do, anything at all. I want honesty, I said, and accountability. Dad nodded slowly like someone accepting a sentence. We can do that. Then start here, I said. Tell me what you would have thought of me tonight, if that Emmy hadn't aired. No one answered. Mom sobbed softly. Amanda stared at the floor. Kenneth looked away. Their silence spread through the room like a cold wind. Dad finally whispered, We wouldn't have changed. Not tonight, anyway. I nodded. I appreciate the honesty. The weight in the room shifted, not lighter, not heavier, just clearer, like a fog had lifted, revealing the wreckage underneath. I walked to the hallway, retrieving my coat from the hook. Mom's voice cracked with panic. Stella, where are you going? Home, I said. I have work to do. Dad shot up, desperate. Now, after all this, I turned back to them. My next series won't produce itself, and I'm on a deadline. Amanda rushed to her feet. Stella, please, don't leave like this. I tilted my head. Tell me why you don't want me to leave. She opened her mouth, closed it. The truth was too tangled to say out loud. I stepped toward the front door, and Dad said quietly, We don't want to lose you. I turned back, meeting his broken gaze. You already did. You just didn't notice. His face collapsed. I reached for the doorknob. Oh, and Dad, I said, pausing. Richard Paulson at Channel 7. His network contacted my production company last month about licensing Fractured Minds. We declined. Exclusive deal obligations. Dad looked like the ground had opened beneath him. And Amanda, I added softly, that Tesla Kenneth bought you. Beautiful car. I leased the same model for on-location shooting last year. Didn't like it. Switched back to the Honda. Easier to park near warehouses. The look on her face was indescribable, a mixture of disbelief, defeat, and a small flicker of humility. I pulled my coat on. Mom took a shaky step forward. Stella, can we at least talk again soon? I looked at each of them, the cracks in their perfection, the rawness, the fear. Yes, I said softly, but when we talk next time, it won't be on your terms. And then I opened the door. Cold winter air swept in crisp and clean. I stepped into it. For the first time in years, I felt no weight on my shoulders. Only clarity. The cold December air met me like an old friend, crisp, honest, uncomplicated. Behind me, the perfect Harrison household stood frozen in a stunned silence I had never imagined hearing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't stepping out into the night because I felt small. I was stepping out because I finally felt whole. Snow flurries drifted lazily across the driveway, illuminated by the golden glow spilling from the windows behind me. Their house looked like a Christmas card, flawless on the outside, full of fractures within. I breathed in the cold, letting it clear the tightness that had clung to me from the moment dinner began. My boots crunched across the thin layer of frost on the pavement as I walked toward my embarrassing old Honda. The same one they all loved to mock. The same one that had driven me across states through filming locations to interviews in clinics and remote villages. The same one that had carried me to the stories that built the very career they'd dismissed. Funny how something humble could end up being more loyal than family. Behind me, I heard the front door open suddenly. Stella Mom's voice, frantic, breaking. I didn't turn around. Her footsteps faltered on the porch, hesitating at the threshold like she was afraid the cold might swallow her. Please don't go like this, she called. We're sorry, all of us. I turned my head just enough to see her silhouette trembling, holding herself like a child who'd dropped something precious. "I'm not leaving forever," I said gently, "but tonight I need space." She sagged against the doorframe, relief and grief mixing oddly across her posture. Amanda appeared behind her, wiping her face. Mascara streaked like bruised ink. Kenneth hovered awkwardly, looking as if he wasn't sure if he was allowed to speak. Dad stood farther back, rigid and pale, the man who'd once claimed to define success, now standing in the wreckage of his own certainty. "Can we talk tomorrow?" Amanda asked, voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Please." "Yes," I said, "tomorrow." Mom clutched the edge of the door. "We love you." Her voice cracked. "We always have." I nodded once, a small nod, honest but not forgiving everything. "I know," I said, "but now you need to show it differently." Dad stepped forward, eyes raw. "I'm proud of you, Stella. I should have told you that years ago." It hit me harder than I expected, not because it meant everything, but because it came too late for it to matter the way he thought it would. "Thank you," I said. Then I turned away, because staying any longer would have softened a wound that still needed to breathe. I got into my car, the familiar creak of the door greeting me like a quiet reassurance. As I started the engine, my breath misted the cold air, fogging the windshield for a moment before the heat kicked in. Through the faint blur, I saw them standing in the doorway, a perfectly framed portrait of a family finally humbled by truth. Not ruined, not redeemed, just stripped bare. I pulled out of the driveway. The street was silent snowflakes tapping softly against the windshield, the world muted and peaceful. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat. I waited until I reached a stoplight before picking it up. A message from my business manager. "Congratulations on the Emmy Streamverse, wants to discuss expanding the contract. Call when you can. Huge opportunity." A slow smile tugged at my lips. Not because of the money, not the fame, not the accolades, but because all of it was mine, built from my stories, my vision, my hours, my sleepless nights and unstoppable drive. I never needed their approval to achieve it. I drove on the city lights flickering through the snow like small beacons guiding me toward the life I'd carved out with my own hands. Another message buzzed in. "Team is already celebrating. Champagne's cold, waiting on you." I turned toward the warehouse district where my studio stood, my tiny apartment, though it was anything but. The 4,000 square foot space with vaulted ceilings, industrial windows, and editing bay that gleamed with state-of-the-art monitors. A space built not for show, but for purpose. My purpose. When I pulled up, the building glowed warmly from inside. Through the windows, I could see silhouettes of my crew, my people laughing, embracing, raising glasses. People who respected me not for my last name or my bank account, but for the work we created together. I stepped out of the car, snow crunching beneath my boots. The cold bit my cheeks, but inside, something bright and warm settled in my chest. Not revenge, not triumph, just peace. And as I walked toward the door, I realized the best revenge isn't showing people how wrong they were. It's living a life so rooted in purpose they were never needed to validate it. I opened the studio door, stepping into the light. I didn't need their applause. I had my own.